All right, welcome back to WMMA Now with your host Chuck Stevenson. Coming at you tonight with a special fight preview. I was hoping to have this done about a week earlier. Here it is a week later, just now finally getting it done. But you know what? Better late than never. Still got a few days before the fight. So let's get down into it. We're going to Jacksonville, Florida for UFC number 261. We're going to the co-main event, Strawweight Championship. Defending champion Weili Magnum Zhang coming in against Thug Rose Namajunas. This fight has all the makings to be a potentially, great fight, possible fight of the year contender, at least for the ladies. I mean, this fight brings everything into it, and there's even, a legit beef going on, even if it's just one. It seems like it's just one way. So this should be a very exciting fight. Very much looking forward to it. Can't wait. So let's get down into it. Let's start where we always start, with the stats. The champ coming in 21-1. The challenger and former champion coming in at 9-4. So big experience factor for Zhang. Zhang most recently defeated Joanna Jedrzejczyk via split decision a year ago. Namajunas coming off a split decision win over Jessica Andrade. Now Zhang is the elder fighter, 31-28. Rose is the taller fighter, 5 feet 5 inch, 165 centimeters tall, to Zhang's 5 feet 4 inch, 163 centimeters tall, and that reach extends even a little bit more for Namajunas, 65 inches, 165 centimeters, to Zhang's 63 inch, 160 centimeters. So those are your stats for this Strawweight Championship fight. Now, normally I break down each fighter one at a time in these previews, and then I go over some things at the end. But I wanted to try something a little bit different, and I'm going to break down multiple factors and explain, each fighter's relationship to it. So let's start off with build, physical build. Okay, Zhang has a very strong, solid build. She's kind of stout. If she were a guy, she'd almost be stocky. Whereas Rose has a long, lanky build, built almost waifish. Not quite, she's more muscular than like a typical waif, but waifish. And honestly, that build and that length, it's going to seem even longer in the fight. She knows how to use it very well. And, their build, the way they are built, each plays into how their power is. So Zhang has that solid build, and she's very explosive with her power and her striking and with everything she does. So she uses that build to be very explosive. Whereas Rose, she utilizes her speed and timing, her accuracy to generate power because she doesn't have that explosiveness. So she has that skinnier build, and she's lighter on her feet than Zhang is, and she's able to utilize that speed, and her timing and accuracy is how she generates power. Kicks are going to play a big factor in this fight. Okay, Zhang likes to use her front leg to land inside low kicks, but she also likes to utilize her spinning back kicks, hop on that lead leg, spin that rear leg around. Namajunas, on the other hand, is all about using her front leg on her kicks. Front leg kicks, front leg kicks, front leg kicks. Very heavy on her front leg, even more than Zhang is. I mean, both of them are fairly front leg heavy, but Rose has always been very heavy on that front leg until she rears back on her rear leg in order to throw that front leg up for kicks. Footwork. Both of them are, light and bouncy on the feet, but whereas Zhang will sit down for power strikes, Rose is more in and out and all about, the in and out movement, the lateral movement, always staying mobile on her feet. So, they're bouncing around a lot on their feet, but whereas Zhang is willing to, sit down on her punches to land the power, Rose relies on her footwork to get in and out with her strikes. She's not trying to land power, she's trying to land quick shots, timing and accuracy. In the clinch, Zhang has a brutal clinch striking, just absolutely brutal. We saw that to full effect in the fight against Jessica Andrade. She also has a very tight guard in the clinch. So if she's, on the defense in the clinch. She has a very tight guard. She's able to bring her forearms in and use that guard in the clinch very well to block strikes. Whereas Rose Namajunas, on the other hand, her clinch is traditionally her weakest spot. We saw her get beat up in the clinch against Carolina, and when she fought Joanna Jedrzejczyk for the second time, Jedrzejczyk's strongest rounds were the third and fourth round, where she was able to consistently get the clinch and work from the clinch against Rose. Takedowns. Zhang usually uses a mixture of upper body and trip takedowns. She's very Sanda based, so her takedowns come from, the upper body and the trips that Sanda allows. Whereas Rose doesn't usually go for takedowns on her own. She prefers to get her opponent to the ground in a scramble, usually initiating them and trying to out-grapple her opponent from the clinch and initiate scrambles, sometimes, jumping up and hopping on her opponent's back. So very different takedown games between these two. When they get onto the ground, one thing I've noticed about Zhang is that she is a very good wrestler. From the limited ground game we've seen from her, she values position over submission. She will take her time using her heavy ground and pound to open her opponents up so that she can improve her position and make sure that she has the position on lock before she goes for submissions. Whereas Rose, on the other hand, is, she's very scramble heavy. She usually gets her subs in scramble. She relies on very fast movement on the ground. Reaches up for arm bars out of throws up submissions out of nowhere, arm bars, quick back takes to get the rear naked choke, stuff like that. Now for X Factor. For Zhang, it's her drive. You don't see too many fighters that just seem so driven as Zhang is. If her social media is to be believed, she doesn't really do much other than train. Like, this is her life. This is what she wants to do. All she thinks about is being a champion. Whereas, on the other hand, the X factor for Rose is going to be that high-level experience. I mean, Rose entered the UFC on only technically her fourth pro bout. She's been in the UFC ever since then, consistently facing against, top 10 and a lot of times top 5 competition. So Zhang has the experience factor overall as far as numbers go, but as far as consistently facing top level competition, it's Namajunas all the way. So that's how I see, each, little segment of the fight and how it affects each fighter and how each fighter utilizes different segments of the fight. So let's talk about keys to victory for each fighter. I see Zhang, she's probably going to try to walk Rose down, whereas Rose is going to use her footwork to control the range. Zhang is not afraid to walk an opponent down and get into a firefight, whereas Rose, she likes to control the range, she likes to control the distance, she likes to keep her opponents at the end of her strikes. Now, one thing that Zhang likes to throw is that spinning back kick, and Rose is going to want to try to time the spinning back kicks of Zhang and look for that recovery time after the kick to try to get in close to initiate those scrambles to get her to the ground, or to try to get on the back. Now, both fighters, as I mentioned earlier, are lead leg heavy, and anytime you have a lead leg heavy fighter, landing low kicks against them is going to be key. So this could very well be a low kick heavy fight. So whoever wins that low kick battle is going to be doing a lot to win the fight. Now Zhang, I think she needs to, strike to clinch and get into that clinch and bust Rose up in that clinch. Take it to Rose's traditional weakness in that clinch. Strike to get inside, get that clinch, beat her up on the clinch. For Rose, I think she's going to want to keep that distance, control the range, Because like I said, she has the height advantage, she has the reach advantage, and she knows how to use both to make it seem even longer. Now Zhang could look to take she could look to take the fight to the ground if Rose is controlling the distance too well. And that is one way that, the fight could turn into a ground heavy battle. Now Rose, on the other hand, she needs to look to create scrambles to defeat Zhan's takedown defense. Right now, Zhan has a 100% takedown defense percentage in the UFC, at least. So she's not easy to take down. So if Rose wants to get this to the ground, she's got to create scrambles and try to take her back, or just do what she can in order to get the fight to the ground. Okay, so those are my thoughts on, how each fighter breaks down individually with various factors in the fight, and, the keys to victory and how the fight could possibly break down. So now I got to make my pick, because, everybody watches these and everybody wants to know, who the pick is going to be. And I'll admit, this one was not easy, because, I really watched a lot of video on this one, and this could be a very, very close fight. Also, I had to put aside my personal biases in this one. I like Zhan. I've always liked her. I think that she has run into a lot of people overhyping her a little bit. So, I had to set aside that, clouding my judgment on that one. On the other hand, it is no secret, if you follow me, that I have never been a fan of Rose Namajunas. I think she's too inactive. I don't like how she waffles, about her career all the time. And I had to really, really work hard to set aside my biases and try to analyze this fight and make an honest pick here. So that said, my pick is going to be Weili Zhang to win. Most likely by decision. However, I could see her finishing Rose with strikes. Possibly, most likely in the later rounds. I picked Zhan because, while both have very high skill level, for me, I think this bout also comes down to a battle of will. Who wants this more? I don't think we've ever heard Zhan falter about, where she is mentally, what she wants to be doing with her life. Whereas Rose, we hear it almost every other fight, it seems like. Sometimes more than once between fights, she'll change her opinion on, do I want this? Do I want this to be my career? Am I ready to retire yet? For me, the battle of the willpower firmly favors Zhan, and I think it can come down to will over skill. Also, it's about endurance. If neither of them gets an early finish, this is going to be a battle of endurance. We've seen Rose fade in later rounds. Hell, we've seen Rose fade after 1 or 2 rounds, let alone the later rounds. Whereas Zhan, we just saw her go toe for toe, broke for broke, with the all-time strawweight great in Joanna Jedrzejczyk last year for 5 hard rounds. Neither of them backed down in that fight. So we know that Zhan has the endurance, and that's why I'm picking Weili Zhang, or Zhan Weili if you're, Sinocentric. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the fight, and that's who I'm picking. UFC 261 co-main event, Strawweight Championship. Zhan Weili, Magnum taking on Thug Rose Namajunas. Very excited for this one. For me, this fight is my main event. They could have placed this on the prelims and I'd be like, okay, event's done for me, because that's how important and how good I expect this fight to be. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the fight in the comments down below. Now, if you liked the video, please give it a like, share it as well. That's how the channel grows. And while you're at it, if you haven't yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA Scene Now, the most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.